And I appreciate that we're able to have hopefully a briefer conversation than we had the night of the rescissions, but again, an opportunity to weigh in on the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and the value that comes to our small rural community-based stations, whether they be radio or public TV. I think people know my position on it. I have recounted the value in my state of public broadcasting. I did vote to move the labor HHS bill out of the committee today, even though I have deep concerns about where we are right now with funding for public broadcasting. I do want to acknowledge the efforts that Senator Rounds made the night of the vote-a-rama there on the rescissions, and the commitment that you have received to get some support for our tribal radio stations. I think that can be helpful, even if it is just a one-year increment. I still have a lot of questions about the proposal, including where the funds are coming from, how much we're talking about, whether this is a one-time deal or a multi-year deal, the eligibility criteria. We're continuing to work to identify that. We're working with the administration. We're working with the Alaska Public Media folks to ensure that our stations can receive this. But I come from a state where we have half the tribes in the United States of America, and of our 26 public radio stations, less than half of them are considered to be tribally owned or serving tribal lands. So these are some things that we're working through, and I share that with you because I want you to know that this senator is not going to stand down when it comes to providing support for these resources, for educational funding, for cultural funding, but also on the emergency side. As you all know, there was really a historic earthquake just off the Russian coast night before last. I was up super late getting the tsunami warning alerts. Those are great, those are super important, but I got a note from KCAW, which is in Sitka, Alaska, down in southeastern. All up and down the Alaskan coast, there were tsunami concerns, obviously, after an 8.8 earthquake. Sitka was placed under tsunami watch. I'm reading her email here, later downgraded to an advisory before being canceled. KCAW, the public radio station there, was the first and only to report on this in Sitka. They did not receive any notification from NOAA via the EAS, the Emergency Alert System. Our reporters discovered the warning because they talked to public radio down in the Aleutians who did get the warning, did get the alert. They reach out. This is, call it old-fashioned, but when you're in really remote places and scary things are coming your way, you want to figure out every means that you possibly have to communicate there. So KCAW was the only alert system that was active in this community for the duration of the watch and the advisory. And they've shared with me, they're like, Lisa, without federal funding here, our ability to provide for this is very significantly impacted. After the rescissions vote, and again, it was a very clear determination with the votes that we had on that. But I did a reach out. It wasn't me. I had my high school interns contact every public radio station in the state, and we found out that some of our stations are going to be forced to close this year. Some can weather the storm for maybe a year or so. They've got some reserves, but some pretty drastic changes to staffing and program. Some are in the process of figuring out how to move forward. The challenge is they don't have the ability to fundraise in their communities. These are small local communities. The budgets of almost half of the radio stations in Alaska depend 50% or more on CPB funding. 20 of the 26 stations depend at least 30% on the funds. And again, these are the smallest, most rural and economically disadvantaged communities in the state. So I'm not giving up. I appreciate, Senator Baldwin, your effort to work with any of those of us moving forward. I'm going to be spending time during this August break going around to my communities and going into my public radio stations, going into my public TV stations, and just saying, how you guys doing? Because I know what I'm going to be getting, and I want to bring the feedback to those of you. So I thank the committee, again, for the effort to resolve things here in a civilized way that's going to allow for a good bill to move forward, but know that this is one of those issues that I'm going to continue to work together with my colleagues, and I appreciate the indulgence of the chair for this amount of time.
Senator Coons.
Thank you, Madam Chair.